everyone. Welcome to another episode of the XL Tribesman podcast. Now, today I have a special guest on with us who is I'm going to call it, even if you don't want to agree. I'm going to call you the world renowned model because at this point you are literally modeling in languages I can't read, which you worldwide. Um, we have Stephen G on the podcast. Yes. Introduce yourself. Tell the people like where you from, where you were born. Start with your story. People, I mean, models don't ever get a chance to speak. You only see them walk. You only see them move, but you don't see them speak. You don't hear their story. You don't know what they go through. See amazing photos. You don't know what it took to get there. None of that. So tell the people.
Absolutely. Well, thank you first for the opportunity just to speak on your platform and to be a part of everything that you're doing with XL Tribesman and everything you do outside of that. Appreciate you. But to introduce myself, my name is Stephen G. I am a creative entrepreneur, currently based in Kansas City right now, but kind of traveling all over as the job demands. But based in Kansas City. Started as a photographer. I've been shooting a little over 10 years. From photography, I ventured into, yeah, it's been a minute. It's been a minute.
Wow.
From photography, ventured into wardrobe styling. And then from wardrobe styling, did some creative directing and then ventured into modeling from there. So that's
So
kind
the
of a
saying
conglomerate.
is very true. It does take 10 years to become an overnight success.
It does. It does.
Wow. Wow. Okay. So, see, now I have a question. So, when you started photography 10 years ago, did you perceive that you'd be in front of the camera?
Not at all. Like honestly, I couldn't have imagined or even really. Honestly, I've never dreamt of even being on the other side of the camera because, to be honest, I really didn't like to be on the other side of the camera. It was more so of I love to be behind the camera. I love to, shoot editorials. I love to tell fashion stories, in that way. And I was cool with not, putting me on the other side of the camera and doing all of that. But it was actually wardrobe styling that got me in front of the camera because, as a stylist, when you're starting out, you don't necessarily have that access to pools, to designers and, retailers to be able to pull items. So for me, my best bet to showcase what I know is with what I have. And so utilizing my own closet
Uh,
resources that I've had that I've built with designers and things like that over the years as a photographer, been able to, utilize myself as my own muse. And then, of course, doing shoots every now and again with models and things like that to do more of those editorial productions. But on a consistent basis, we in a fast society. So for content, you got to have content going and going. So for me, I'm more of an entrepreneur. So I put on my entrepreneur hat and it's like, okay, so how can I be most efficient? And so I just utilize myself, utilize my own personal style to showcase on Instagram. And so with that journey, it started to get the attention of agents and scouting,
okay.
directors, producers, things like that. And they just assumed that I was a model. And so for me, as an entrepreneur and just, overall hustler, I'm like, okay, well, I know modeling comes with the check at this level. So it was more like, okay, well, this is a great opportunity just to, create another source of income. So I just utilized the opportunity with like, hey, well, if I keep getting these inquiries, then it may be, I may have a shot.
Something there.
Yeah, it may be something there. So yeah, that's how that worked, that whole transition into becoming a model. But yeah, it started as a photographer and, really grinding in that space of the business.
Okay. So you said you put on your entrepreneur hat. So when you got your first inquiry to model, what did you think of it? And what made you say yes? Well, I don't even know if you said yes to the first one, but so I guess that's a two-part question. He didn't say yes. When was the first one you said yes to?
Okay, so let me ask this. My first gig that I actually did or my first gig that inquired about me as a model?
Yeah, that's what I was figuring because I was wondering they might not have been the same thing. So
Yeah.
when you got your first inquiry, like what did you think? Like What y'all? Me? I ain't even no model. Like what? Like what were you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, all of that. I had all of those thoughts. Like, yeah, I'm not a model. But my first initial thought was seeing that rate and the client.
Oh,
And so yeah, it was a major client. It was a major client coming out of the gate, and it was a pretty good rate. So I'm like, okay, well, yeah, sign me up. You
okay,
know
all
what I
right.
mean? I'm like,
Well,
I may
well,
not have the experience, but as a photographer, and I coach and develop models over the years as well. So I mean, I would know what the brand would expect. I just me personally wouldn't have the experience, but again, my first thought seeing that was if they inquired about me, I'm definitely not going to turn it down. So it was definitely, I think, the opportunity that got my attention to be able to
got it.
say, let's go ahead and pursue this thing.
Okay. So once that shoot wraps now, are you now thinking like, oh, I can become a model, or you're like, I'm gonna get back behind the camera? Like, what's your mindset after that first shoot?
Well, this is the thing. So that first shoot actually didn't happen. So I actually had a few inquiries that didn't happen, and so that's what made
Oh,
me. Yeah, so a lot of them I didn't get because I guess as a model, what you do you get casted. So of course there's other models a part of that pool, and so they inquired. Casting director pulled me and had me on hold, and then eventually released the gig. So I actually didn't get the first few inquiries that I had. But
oh.
at that point, yeah, at that
Teach the
point,
people some things. I didn't know that's how the process worked. I
oh
thought
yeah,
once they
absolutely.
inquired, they were interested in you. I didn't know there was a process after that.
Oh yeah, no, that just because they're interested, that still doesn't mean you're going to get it. And that's another thing that I think, was a good learning experience in modeling that I didn't necessarily experience with photography is that, you get told no a lot. Just because they have an interest in you and they may want to book you, it's so many different factors that may boil down to you actually getting that job. And so, of course, at that time, I wasn't a model, so there was a lot of things I'm sure factored into that.
Hmm.
But it was a good thing that it did happen because now I was able to. Somebody's at my door. I was able to at
That
that
was a
time.
real moment.
That was a real moment. But I was able to really like, okay, well, if this person is inquiring about me, this person is inquiring about me, this brand, I'm like, okay, well, I may have a shot at this. And so
Hmm.
I wasn't even signed at that point. Like this was just literally a lot of casting directors reaching out to me via Instagram. And so that's how a lot of the inquiries came about. And so it was more so like a thing that happened where it was randomly at 2 a.m. in the morning and I'm just sitting in bed and, God just gave me the inclination, go ahead and just apply to agencies. And so I just followed that inclination and I was just up 2 a.m. doing my research, really trying to find the agencies that really, really align to who I am, really align to obviously my niche of market as a model.
Yep.
So really researching agencies that represent brand models, etc. And so that's when, excuse me, I came across Bridge Models, who I'm with signed with now, and
Okay.
they ended up extending the contract about 2 weeks after I submitted. And so
Ooh.
then that's when it was official, like, okay, I got signed. So
Whoa, that was
it's
fast.
yeah, it was. It
Woo.
was.
Woo.
So that's what I would say made it official for me was actually becoming a signed model because I feel like,
Okay.
with agency representation, it kind of put a little more validation on it and really kind of
They
just
put
gave
some
me
respect on your name.
yeah. And really just kind of killed like even my own doubt and insecurities and things like that. I was just like, well, nah, it's not really a thing. Like they're not really, they just wanted me for that particular campaign. But no, when they reach out to extend the contract, it was like, okay, let's do this. Let's do this.
This is
So
for real now. I'm ready.
real, yeah.
Okay. So you get signed with Bridge 2 weeks after flying. Talk about following your purpose. I mean, a lot of times we get nudges to do things, but we don't follow for our own fearful purposes. So, how long were you getting that little that little that little nudge on your side, like oh, do something? You should do like. How long was that happening before you was like, I'm gonna do it, or as soon as you got did it?
Well, I can start actually with this because I think this was super important for me. And even just looking at it now, it was like, man, I'm glad I followed that inclination because it started actually with me making this a decision to create content.
Okay.
Before, I used to just use Instagram like most people post, vacation pictures, your fit
Yep.
pictures, and, you out to eat, very uncurated. So it was
I
very
got you.
much social. And so the moment I decided to actually transition and kind of curate my content a little bit better, that was that first inclination. That second inclination came when I wanted to change my Instagram name. I'm like, I need to actually clean it up. Let me actually get a clean name, something that represents, I feel like, who I am, represents my brand also as a creative, um, as a photographer, and really just kind of own that. And so it came with the content creation and changing my Instagram name. So once
Okay.
that happened, it really put me in the mind space of like, okay, now this is official, and that's kind of where the name official come from with the official Stephen G. And so it was more of like a signature thing to really like put things in place. And so once that happened, then creating the content and being consistent with it. And then also after that, it's like, okay, now you have a model and inquiries. Let's be consistent with that. And so it just kind of followed. But I think that was my first moment where I was like, yeah, this is kind of where I need to make that shift.
Okay. So how long? Because I went strolling back. You've been creating content for it looks like 2 or 3 years before your entrance into the big and tall like modeling, I guess, world. You had been getting content like way before that.
Yeah.
Um, I was trying to remember at what point did I start noticing you. I mean, I saw you before you became a model. But I'm trying to remember, like I was trying to remember what photo was it that I saw, and I just couldn't. So that's actually what I was doing before our interview, strolling back to like remember, because what I wanted to get a sense of is, how did you create content then versus, because the the content you create now just looks like, I mean, I guess that's the job of a model, but it just looks so the shit. And
Thank you.
like I can't even
Appreciate
find any other word for it, but it's the shit. And so I'm wondering,
that.
like at what point did your content shift, because you were creating like amazing style content before, but now it's like style, it's like fashion, but it's like fashion with like $1 million budget. So like,
Oh, man.
what was
Thank you.
the
Appreciate
shift
that.
for you?
Mm. Well, I think it was really it's a couple of things, but I would definitely say initially it was a faith move.
Okay,
And I think every move that I've had since then was a faith move. And so it was really just
just
jumping on
walking on
faith,
faith.
just
Yep,
walking on faith, like
yep,
really
yep. Ah,
understanding to those things when you feel like, you get that, okay, do this. Most people kind of shrug it off or they may say it to their friends and like, I was thinking about doing this and they never do nothing with it. You know what I'm saying? But when you
yep.
actually do something with it, like for me, my belief is is God will honor whatever you say and do. The moment you say it and you put an action plan behind it and you start to do, you really can't lose the moment you do because, you can plant a seed, but as long as you keep watering it, seasons may come, it's drought and it may not grow, but as long as you keep watering, you nurturing it, it's going to grow. Like that's just how it's designed to do. So just anything like that, if God planted the idea, I just utilize it as a seed to just grow and nourish. And so it was a faith move. Like I know I may not have the budget yet, but I'm gonna make those investments. I'm gonna make those connections. I'm gonna really, do what I need to do to make it look like how I imagined it to look. And so really just taking that mindset and implemented that with every transition. That's how I can best say that's what made the shift. Like that's what made that pivot shift. And then also just knowing what the industry desires
Want
at that point. Yeah,
okay.
so I know working with brands, I work with brands as a photographer. And, my wife works in social media as a brand strategist for an agency. So she works with a lot of top level brands to be able to, help give me that feedback too. Like, this is kind of what the aesthetics and things like that. This is kind of what they're looking for. This is this is pretty much the standard. And so with that in mind, it was just utilizing that standard to make that shift. And I can actually say, I want to say 2017 is when I made that shift, because it was actually a new year. And I remember making it like a New Year's Eve post. I had on like an all black suit. And it was one of those things where I'm like, okay, I want to style it how I want to. I want to shoot it how I want to. I want to go to the location how I want to. And that was like that pivotal moment to really start shifting my content. And I think, it was just a matter of not being lazy with it. Because I think a lot of times, we have an idea to do something. We're like, okay, well, I'll just shoot it right here, or I'll just use my phone, or I'll just, I'll throw it, or, and it's like, no, like, if you didn't envision it like that, if you didn't see it like
trigger.
that, hey, it's a good trigger, because it was me. It was me. And it was like, when you know that it should be better, you just have to do better.
Do better. Yep.
Because it's going to pay off in the end. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're going to reap the benefits of that extra effort that you put in to go to the location that you want. Like, as a photographer, a lot of people didn't even know, like, I was putting together gigs in LA in like 2018 on my own dollar. Like, I'm booking makeup artists, stylists, and putting together productions and entire teams. But that positioned me to be able to have those connections and be able to make those strides in a different market, because I wasn't there, and I know what I desired to look like and to be, and how I wanted my work to look. So it's like, hey, I don't have palm trees in Kansas City, but I want to shoot a really high-end bathing suit ad type look in my portfolio. I had to make that investment to go to LA, to get the palm trees, to get the beach, to get the scenery, to book the, the industry model to get that look. So it's just like, following those inclinations to elevate yourself.
Okay. I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Investing in yourself is what I'm hearing here.
Absolutely.
And Absolutely. You did a lot of that.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, I hear Jesus talking. Thanks. I see what you're saying here. I see what you did for other people. I guess that's what you're saying. It's my time. I hear you. So now you have taken these connections. You've obviously decided to follow the inclination that you got from God, and you followed that to lead you to obviously being signed. Now you're signed. What's your, do you remember your first gig? Like, what was it like?
Yeah, so first I want to say, before I get into my first gig, the transition of being signed, I got signed during the pandemic of 2020.
So, the panoramic.
Yeah, the whole panoramic. Like, I got signed when we were on lockdown. That was the real lockdown, not like the Atlanta lockdown where everybody was outside.
Don't do us like that.
I'm playing. But now
we were locked down too, by the way. People don't know that. We were officially locked down. It only lasted 2 months, 3 months. But no. Well, actually, you're right. It was. Yeah, because we were still. Yeah. But like, most of the city was locked down. Like, the streets was empty. Yeah, for 3 March. No, it was 2 months. I lied. It was 2 months. It was only 2 months, because we opened up. Is that Memorial Day? That's what happens in May. Yeah, we were open for Memorial Day. So yeah it wasn't real. You're right.
I was in Atlanta like in March, and the week after, that's when everything shut down. But yeah, to your point, like so like it was shut down. Everything shut down. So like couldn't go nowhere, and that was like the real shutdown. So literally, I had to get creative with my content. So I shot a lot of my content and built my portfolio as a model myself. So like, I would shoot a lot of my own content. I would go to my studio, set it up on boxes or whatever, a tripod, set up in my apartment, shot a lot of content in my apartment that basically became content I had to use, because I didn't have a portfolio, and I still obviously have to work. Like, it's a job, so I need to be able to be presented to clients and have a diverse portfolio of something. And I didn't have anything. And so that was really like where a lot of my content at home began to develop, was during that time. Yeah. And so after that, My first official gig, a lot of people don't know, was the Savage X Fenty gig. That was my first official job as a model. So yeah, that was a moment. That was a moment.
That was the moment.
That was the moment.
Yes.
Yeah, and so
I mean,
we
the
all know how
way
that
that
went.
took
So
off is like what? Okay, because I'm learning this from talking to other Savage models and other models. Period.
yeah,
Is that you guys don't know when the drop is happening. It just drops and like everyone's telling you about it. So what was your experience with when your photos first dropped?
man, it was crazy. Like one of my homies actually in Atlanta hit me up at like 4 a.m. and I just so happened to wake up. I literally just so happened to wake up and see his text like, bro, have you seen this? And so it was a screenshot of Twitter. And so I just log on Twitter and then I just see it already on my page, like notifications going crazy. And then the girl who actually made the meme, okay, Rihanna, it just went crazy. And at that time, it was already at like, I don't know, like 200,000 like likes and retweets and whatever. And so it just went crazy. And then after that, literally in that same day, um, picked up our Glamour magazine, New York Post, and that was when I was like, okay, this is like really going crazy. So
Wait, you were in Glamour magazine?
yeah,
Like you had spread?
yeah. Well, it wasn't a spread. They used the shot from the ecom shoot from
Yeah,
that
that's what I
launch
mean.
of the
I'm sorry, not a
campaign.
spread, but you had an ad.
Yeah,
Your
well, it
fit
was
photos
actually
ad.
yeah. So the story was actually it was me, Lizzo, and Rihanna, and it was a recap of the show, and then they were talking about kind of the buzz behind it. So yeah, that happened literally that same day, and I'm just like wow, like hold on, relax. Like first of all, I ain't even comfortable shirtless like that, and y'all just blew it up. Like y'all done blew my spot up, and it was just because for me, I'm
Literally.
gonna tell you, like I knew it was coming, but I didn't know when it was coming. So I'm like, okay, I'm still like kind of reserved. Like I ain't never, again, it's my first shoot. My first shoot, I'm in my underwear. I ain't got no shirt on. Like, you know what I'm saying? So it's all these factors that got me like anxious because I'm like, I was still uncomfortable with sharing it. So I was gonna maybe share like one of the shots on my feed and then maybe that was it. You know what I'm saying? But literally all of that happened that night before I could even wake up to see, that it was live. Like it just went crazy in the same day.
Wow. Okay. Okay. So I'm trying to imagine what it feels like to like create. Okay. So I wanna go back before I even think about like what it feels because like even I'm thinking about like you go to sleep, waking up to this is crazy. But before we even get there, so while you on the shoot, right? Obviously, you said that you were uncomfortable, like with your shirt off. Um, what was your feeling when the photographer was like, "Yeah, we doing underwear"? Like what did you was like? What was you like? What was going through your head?
Yeah, I mean, so by the time I got to set, I was cool. And mind you, like we got a good team. Like everybody on the team is mad cool, super chill, incredible to work with, all talented and super diverse. So it just made it a very comfortable environment to work in.
Hmm.
But also before that, like I feel like getting all of those things out before, because what happened was one of the producers actually reached out to me on Instagram via DM, asking if I wanted to be a part of, the launch because at that time they didn't have men clothes at all. So that was like the
Yes.
intro to men's clothing for Savage X Fenty. And so I was like, well, Savage is a lingerie brand. So I'm like, okay, well, y'all coming out with clothes now or something? I'm like, he was like, nah, it's gonna be boxes, gonna be underwear. So I'm like, see. So I pretty much knew what time it was when
I'm feeling a
we
little Martinish right now.
you know what I'm saying? Like, man, hold on, like me. But it's crazy because like I really was low key shook, but I talked to my agent about it. I was even to the point like make sure like he actually know what I look like. Like he ain't about to get me out here looking crazy. Like you know what I'm saying? Because we ain't seen it as brown men. We haven't seen like a real body in mainstream like that.
Yep.
Uh, before, like, that don't have, and it's a lot of big men that still have a smaller build, but like I'm a bigger guy with like a bigger build. So it's like, for me, I'm having all those thoughts like, yeah, I don't know, maybe I'm photographing small on Instagram or something, like literally all those thoughts.
Well, they might see. So see, it's interesting to know that even like when you are the shit, even you still have like make sure he knows that I'm like not like little big, I'm big big.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
even that
thanks.
idea, it's like I don't know. I guess it just reminds you that like we're all in some type of, I don't want to say struggle, but we're all in some type of sort of way where no matter how great you are, there's always some part of us that's like maybe we don't feel the best or look the best or how other people think of us, and that's interesting. The more that I talk to people who I think are the absolute shit, I'm like, but you got the same thoughts I do. So then, in that case, that makes me the shit,
Yeah, facts.
right? So,
Hey, and that's the thing. That's really what it boils down to because I feel like, it just takes more of that real conversation. Like we having a real conversation. Like I'm talking to you like I'll talk to one of my closest friends, one of my cousins, like, and this fam. And it's just like, one, that's how the world should be anyway. Like it shouldn't be these statuses and, all these disconnects. Like we should all be helping each other, especially as Black people. Like we need to be
yep.
doing that by nature anyway. And so, like, yeah, man, I had those same thoughts going into it. It was definitely like, yeah, I'm not sure, but like I said, working with them, getting on set, I was like, oh yeah, this is a vibe. This is a vibe. And so went on, did my thing, and it is what it is. And so it really honestly helped me become more comfortable because it was one of those situations like once it went viral, just seeing all the people and the love and support I got, it made me more comfortable and appreciative of my size myself. And so it was actually, not even just, something that was beneficial to all brown men and other just, the plus industry, but for myself, like it was more like okay, yeah, let's really wake up for real. Like let's give them that pressure. And so,
Ooh.
yeah, that was that moment.
You know what I imagined? I imagined in this very moment right now. I imagined that there's going to be some little kid. I don't want to say little. There's going to be some like I'm gonna say teenager because I assume you have to be at least what 13 to get on Instagram. So there's some teenager right now that is
Yeah.
like discovering your work and thinking, if he look like that and I look like that, I guess I'm cool too.
Facts.
That for me is like the whole purpose of why I do what I do.
Facts.
For there to be, for kids to no longer grow up with self identity issues about who they naturally are, how
Yeah.
their God given body looks. Like, that is exactly why I do what I do. So, seeing your photos just makes me feel like we're going in the right direction. And that makes me hella proud.
Yes, sir.
Um, so, obviously, this is where I step in to the picture because I'm like, okay, I want to know what Stephen G feels. So that's at this point, the photos come out, I think, in September of 2020. If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think it was October. It was yeah,
October.
October. Yep.
So I this is the photo. Actually, it dawned on me. This is the photo I want to know about it because first of all, the color grading is absolutely excellent. I'm sorry, I know I'm dipping into the photography streets right now, but
Yeah.
the color grading on those absolutely perfect. I want to know how you got the shadows to look like that. I'm gonna show you the picture I'm talking about. This one right here.
Ah, so that one, yeah, that was actually one of my favorite shoots to this day. That one I actually didn't shoot that one. I had a photographer. Her name was An.
I was about to say, if you shot this yourself, I'm,
Yeah,
I'm,
nah,
I'm, I'm going head first.
yeah, nah. She's so talented, man. She's dope, and she killed that shoot, like literally. And it was in my studio, so it was yeah, it's probably why you thought I shot it because it's in my studio.
Okay.
But yeah, she captured the space, the vibe, the essence so well. But
Woo!
yeah, she did her
This
thing.
some
She did her thing.
this some fly ass shit. I
Appreciate
mean,
it.
so at this time, so now you, this was almost 2 years ago at this point. Like, has that even registered? Like, that was almost 2 years ago?
Nah, man. Time going by so quick.
Right, right. So we are in 20, so you wrap up that shoot. So tell me, so your next shoot, I don't remember what it is. I'm not even gonna try to remember. But so I want to know where's the elevation from there. Like what happened next? Like did brands come at you like, or was it a slowdown? And I want to know like when they came at you, did they put more respect on your name? Did they look at you like, oh, this is like this is like model. So like I really understand like how did the industry respond to you is the proper interview question after that.
Yeah, so I mean, I think the response was incredible, honestly, and I'm thankful that it happened because, like I said, I think really the whole narrative is bigger than me, and that's what I'm happy about because I've always been, a guy of fashion. Like I had a passion for fashion since I can remember as a kid. So like really being able to dress and put together things from a stylistic standpoint and being into designers, that's something I've always been into, but I've always been a larger guy. And so, not really having that selection to be able to go to, just pull these pieces and things like that,
Yeah.
you don't have that option. So you got to be uber creative and uber, resourceful to do all these things, what I'm saying, to really still feel like you can express yourself from a fashion standpoint. So what that moment brought about was a narrative that, okay, yeah, now it's time to really wake up. Like we haven't been seeing representation for brown men in fashion. And so that was when I was like, okay, yeah, this is where it's at. This needs to keep happening. And so that was the response I received from the industry, not just the industry, but just from people around the world. And the brands just started coming, the publications just started coming after that. And, it's a blessing that it's still happening because, like you said, it's 2 years ago. But I think, now because the conversation sparked so much and a lot of brands really took heed to that. And really, honestly, a lot more other influencers and models and other just brown men, content creators start like getting, like, oh, okay, well, let's do it. Like my boy did it. Like, nah, we out here. Like, let's do it. And
I
I
can
feel
do it
like,
too. Yes, and
yeah,
that's what I
that's,
like.
yeah, for sure. And that was something I definitely love too. And I think, the response from brands, they're seeing that. And, the more we continue to elevate our voices and our content and the things that we do best, just being ourselves and being our fly, creative, selves, regardless, is what's waking the industry up. And so, yeah, it's still happening. The brands, recently published in Vogue, second time Vogue Business, and for them to pick
Whoa,
up the story, it's just like, yeah, that's
whoa,
a
whoa,
major thing.
whoa. We not gonna float. We not gonna float Vogue like that. I'm gonna need you to run that on back.
Yeah, yeah.
What?
So I had an interview with Vogue, British Vogue, and then my second interview recently, I believe actually last month, was with Vogue Business, and they covered an entire story. So it was me, Zach Mikos, and a couple other different brown models, really just getting our narrative. And so, yeah, man, it's not stopping. It's not stopping, and it's starting to excel, and we're starting to see those wheels moving. So I'm excited about it.
Listen, the day I had the opportunity, like the day in life to see somebody that wears above a size 32 in Vogue just never entered in my mind.
Yeah.
So like, keep doing what you're doing. 'Cause clearly you are following the spirit and it is leading you into all the right directions. Um,
Appreciate that.
I think before we wrap this on up, I want to know, like, what what's one thing you thought before you got in the industry that's either different, the same now that you feel that's either different or the same you feel now about the industry? Because, like, I feel like the number one question, I really assume if I get this question 3 times a day, you must get it 32 times per day. And it has to be the how do I become a model question, because I literally get that question 3 times a day. Like, I'm not kidding. 6 years in a row, I've been getting that question 3 times a day.
Yeah.
So I'm talking to a model. Tell them how you become a model. How you do that?
Absolutely. So you become a model simply by becoming a model. So the moment you decide to do it, you just have to be it.
Lex Bomb.
And so with that, definitely do your research. Do your research on the industry. Actually know, what you're getting into. Create a portfolio. But even then, that's not really necessarily needed to get signed or anything. But you want to create a portfolio, one, for the experience, but second, to actually develop a professional book. Take your digitals, get a photographer wherever you are, take your digitals, even those, I'll always say quality over quantity. So if you want to be on a more cost efficient side, you can use your phone. But definitely, if you want to elevate it, if you want to get the attraction of Gucci and Tom Ford, then get you some digitals that look like Gucci and Tom Ford, and just continue to have that mindset with everything you do. So make sure your portfolio is diverse, and you just be consistent and just keep posting, keep carrying yourself as a model in person. If I see you at the grocery store, your head should be held high, and you should be walking like you own that grocery store. So all of that is entailed with being a model. Like I said, so to simply put it, is just be a model.
I felt like this was a kick in the door moment. Like, whoa. I tell the people, just unlock your Instagram. Thank you. because
Get it all private.
because
Get it all private first.
I mean, because people that ask me to do that, their page is always private. It's like, how are people gonna find you?
Right.
But what you gave was elevated. So actually, thanks for that. Now I'm gonna take some of that information. I'm gonna dive into it deeper, and I'm gonna create a second video, because I had a first one that I did like 4 years ago. But I want to do a follow-up video on what it takes to become a model. So I'm gonna take some of those research pieces you said and really dive in a little deeper to give more context, because I didn't think about creating a portfolio. I thought about like creating a digital portfolio, obviously on Instagram, but you're right. When I see models, they still have they have a book still.
Yeah.
So
if you're not signed, I mean, that's the benefits. Of course, having an agency. A lot of times they take on that project for you. But I mean, if you out here, if you hustling, you trying to develop your brand as a model, do it, and that's do what the actual models are doing, and so that's what you have to do. Get that book, go to those castings. You know what I'm saying? Get connected with the right people, and just be consistent.
well, there you have it, people. Y'all just found out how to become a model. Stephen G said it. He's a model. I'm not a model, so I feel like that piece of information is so valuable. I really hope that people like. I hope that this is people's inclination. I hope that people listen to this podcast, they watch this podcast, and this is their inclination, like to do what they've been being like pushed or nudged to do. I hope that this is it. Like I really 10 years from now, I don't know, sitting on the top of a mountain on a G5 somewhere talking about, and somebody's like, yeah, I saw this interview 10 years ago, and I was just like, yeah, I'm gonna do it, and now here I am. Like, that's my hope. When I create every piece of content, I really think about 10 years in the future that someone saw this and did what they knew they always needed to do, but never felt confident enough to do. That's my, every time I create a piece of content. So this is also another shining moment in career that people get to look back on and be like, yo, like Steven went from here to here to here by just listening, following, investing in yourself. Because what I heard in this podcast is that you listened when the spirit was leading you. You invested in yourself, no matter what it cost you. I'm pretty sure it was cheap to fly to LA. So you did what you need to do, and it got you to where you are now. And even I'm gonna take a piece of that advice because I'm triggered, but I ain't gonna take a piece
Don't. Hey, it's a brotherhood. We gotta hold each other accountable. So if I'm
and
slipping, I'm slipping.
that's what I want to do. So before we get up out of here, leave the people with one piece of advice that you feel like you either wish you knew sooner, or just want to impart on other people listening to this right now.
Sure. So one thing I definitely want to leave you guys with is just to follow the voice of God inside of you that tells you to do anything, follow it and do it to the best of your ability. So do it with excellence, do it with pride, and do it with a humble heart. Because at the end of the day, we're all here to serve one another in whatever we do. As a model, I still serve in the space that I'm in, so serving my community, serving, as a black man, as a brown man, like I still serve. And so keep that in mind that whatever you do it to the best of your ability and do it with the mindset that you are going to change lives. So that's pretty much it. Be confident.
I have it in my head right. But
Yeah.
thank you for agreeing to be on Stephen G. I appreciate that so much. Because even I had a moment where I was like, nah, man, I ain't big enough to reach out to Steve even for interview. I did. I'm not gonna lie, I did. And I'm super glad that I did. I mean, it took me a while because honestly, I wanted to interview a year ago, so that's how long it took me to like.
Oh man. Well, hey, everything worked out in perfect timing.
I'm learning that. I'm learning
Yeah.
that things about timing. Even though I wanted to move in my time, it ain't my time.
Nice.
Thank you for agreeing to be on my podcast, and y'all stay tuned for next week's episode. Again, I'm out. But wait, before I go, I just thought about something. Where they can find you at? I mean, I know you're famous and you like everywhere, but for
Uh,
the like two people that live under a rock, where do they find you?
Definitely. So you can find me on Instagram at the official Stephen G. You can check out my photography work at Stephen G Photography _. Check out my website at officialstepheng.com. Photography website is stephengphotos.com.
Come on. His photos are bomb, by the way.
Praise. Yours are too. Yours are too. So look, if you're in KC, book me. If you're in A, book them. Let's go.
Come on.
Yeah.
From Midwest and down. Come on.
Fine. Yeah.
But y'all stay tuned for another episode. Thank you so much for listening to an Extra Tribesman podcast. We are hot this month.